Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, you've joined us as we're going to unpack a really interesting moment. It came out of a meeting between Donald Trump and the King of Jordan.
Yeah, and we're looking at it through the lens of a recent analysis from the Ring of Fire over on YouTube.
So what jumped out immediately, according to this report anyway, was this core statement from Trump. A bully is the weakest person.
Right, and he aimed that label directly at Hamas, talking about the Gaza situation, the hostage talks, and even, threw in that deadline, Saturday at noon.
Saturday noon, yeah. So the immediate question, and it's definitely what the source Ring of Fire zeroed in on, is the irony. Right?
Definitely the irony. You're hearing this from Trump, who, let's be honest, is very often described as a bully himself. So what do we make of that?
Exactly. It raises the question, what does this reveal?
Yeah.
What are the implications?
Well, looking at how the source interprets it, they really suggest it points to a kind of blind spot for Trump, maybe a lack of self-awareness.
They bring up his track record, don't they?
Oh, yeah. The social media attacks, commenting on people's looks, even that whole thing with Taylor Swift after the Super Bowl.
Right. All cited as examples of behavior that, many people would call bullying.
So the source basically lays it out. Trump says bullies are weak, but his own actions, to many eyes, look like classic bullying behavior. It's quite a contradiction.
A fascinating contradiction for listeners to chew on, for sure.
And that contradiction, that's what seemed to fuel a lot of the reactions the YouTube commentary highlighted.
Like who?
Well, they mentioned Larry Sabato, a conservative voice, sort of wryly pointing out the irony there in the Oval Office.
Okay.
Then there was Jack Hopkins, a former Republican, who apparently just asked outright if Trump was maybe talking about himself, calling himself weak or a bully.
Huh? Interesting question.
And Mike Bates, described as a Republican voter who seemed pretty skeptical that Trump had any real self-reflection going on there.
Yeah, those reactions really seem to underscore the main argument from the source. This apparent lack of self-awareness.
Cool.
And they also brought up that point about potential double standards in media coverage, didn't they?
Yes, that was a big part of their commentary. They suggested that if, say, President Biden had a similar history and then made that exact same statement, bullies are weak, the media reaction might be, well, much harsher.
It does make you wonder about different standards, doesn't it?
The source definitely thinks so. Their take is that things Trump says or does, which might cause major outrage if others did them, sometimes just get shrugged off, Oh, that's just Trump being Trump.
Right, this idea of normalization. And the source clearly voiced concern about that, about normalizing behavior they see as bullying.
They seemed worried that this inconsistency could have real consequences for how we judge public figures.
So wrapping up the core tension here for our listeners, it's Trump defining weakness as being a bully set against his own public image and actions.
And the reactions the source highlighted really ranged, from sort of bemused irony to genuine questions about whether he sees it in himself.
Ultimately, the force we looked at today argues this whole incident showcases a potential disconnect for Trump. A failure, maybe, to see how his actions fit his own definition.
And it also raises those broader questions about scrutiny, right? Are these things judged consistently across the board?
Which leads us, I think, to a good final thought for everyone listening to mull over.
Go for it.
Given this whole situation, this analysis, what does it really suggest about how we perceive strength and weakness in our leaders? And maybe more importantly, how much does that perception of character actually influence what they do and the impact they have?
Yeah, that's definitely something worth thinking about long after this deep dive ends.